Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the last of our On the Couch webinar series from the Caddy Shack in 2022. We welcome this afternoon the fantastic Josef from ACON, who will be taking us through HIV 101 and answering all the questions that we've ever had around HIV. I would like to begin this afternoon's session by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land upon which we all sit on this afternoon, even acknowledging the fact that we have some international guests with us this afternoon from New Zealand. This afternoon, I join you from the beautiful Yuin Nation, land of the Wadi Wadi and Wandandian people, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that warm welcome to all of our Aboriginal peers and colleagues joining us online this afternoon. I thought a really nice way to kick off this afternoon session was to read to you an excerpt from a blog that I wrote in 2020. And whilst written in September 2020, it still feels very relevant today and sets the scene for what we're about to discuss. So I'll begin. The experience of COVID-19 has been an interesting moment of reflection for some, but viruses are not new to us in the world of sexual health. Along with witnessing discrimination and stigma, and holding on to dreams of vaccinations and cures. What is new to most of us, though, are the death stare glances you get when you sneeze or you cough. Glances that suggest that you could be risking the lives of others. Memories of a plague bounce back, and the lyrics to the song, Ring a Ring a Rosie, come to mind. A tissue, we all fall down. For weeks, tuning into media became difficult as news of death across the globe from this pandemic took a hold. Scenes of mass grave sites in New York City took us back to a time in the 80s when AIDS was taking the lives of thousands of young men, and similar scenes unfolded. With all the change that we've seen in the world, are things much the same? Perhaps HIV has taught us resilience. It's opened our minds to acceptance and helped us to eventually get back to meaningful lives, i.e. sex without fear. We've learned how to use protection as a measure against viral infection. And maybe, just maybe, we somewhat know how it feels to have a virus, to be ostracised, to be looked down upon, and to live with the uncertainty of health and the real possibility of death. Our HIV warriors faced all of this and continue to fight the fight every single day. Nearly 40 years into this HIV journey, we still have no vaccine and no cure. Yet scientists came up with a vaccine for COVID-19 within 12 months. Dust off the passport, people. We're now back to an open world. What a wonderful world it would be if we took this time to graciously reflect on the journey of our HIV warriors so far. That instead of being quick to judge and to pass opinion, stigmatise or discriminate, we took the time to listen to their story. We each have a chance to be a positive, happy part of someone's journey. What if we chose empathy over assumption? Can you challenge yourself to even try? Because now we all realise that we're vulnerable to a virus. Viruses have no power to discriminate, so why, as humans, should we? In the words of the late Lady Diana, Princess of Wales, HIV does not make people dangerous to know, so you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it. If only she had the foresight to see what would have unfolded in 2020, 2021, and now 2022 as COVID took a hold. Let's now gently move forward. I would like to introduce our guest presenter for today. Josef Garrington is the Community Health Promotion Officer for Regional Outreach to the Illawarra-Shoalhaven area in southern New South Wales. Employed by ACON, it's no secret that Josef is a massive fan of ours, as we are of his. We admire his enthusiasm, his passion and commitment to gender and sexuality diversity of people here in our region. So without further ado, I hand over to Josef to deliver to you HIV 101. Thanks, Josef.
Thanks, Naomi. Beautiful introduction, and I always love hearing those beautiful words that you read out just then. So I'm going to share my screen now and we'll get started. And I'll pop it into presentation view so it looks nice. Here we go. All right. Just move my face out of the way so I can't see myself. All right, so thank you all. I would firstly like to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people. I am based up here in Sydney, and I acknowledge sovereignty was never ceded, and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and to those emerging, and I extend my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person joining us today. Thank you. So a little bit about me. I am the Community Health Promotion Officer for ACON, and I look after the South Coast region, so from the Illawarra all the way down to the Bega Valley. Yeah, my name is Joseph, my pronouns are he, him. I've been in the role since April 2019, and I've been working in partnership with the team at Caddyshack, so Naomi, Maddie and Jen. And yeah, this is I think the third time we've done this, and I enjoy it every year. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy the session and learn something new. This is just me at a red party that was happening last year at Corrimal, and I'm there with the health promotion materials, and we're selling some red ribbon merch for World AIDS Day, which is coming up on the 1st of December. So if you do want to support, we'll pop the link in the email that you'll get after the session. So if you'd like to buy a ribbon or even donate, you can do a virtual red ribbon. We'll provide that link for you to do that. So just a quick group agreement. So I want everyone to respect everybody on here. Don't yuck anyone's yum. So that means if someone is talking about something and you're not into it, that's fine. Just keep it to yourself. I do want you to ask questions, and all questions asked are okay. That's what ACON is. So we're in a virtual room, so you can pop in stuff in the chat. If you have questions, pop them in there. Naomi will capture those. And if they're not answered throughout the session, then we'll reach those at the end, or if we run out of time, we'll answer those via email. I do want you to participate. So, you know, I encourage you to join in and have some fun with us. But of course, you have the right to not participate if you wish. Confidentiality, so everything stays within this space. It is recorded, so please be mindful of that. And if you could pay your full attention to me, that would be wonderful. If you do need to step away for whatever reason, that's fine. I hope you can catch up with us later. All right, so what to expect? I'm going to touch on an introduction to HIV and transmission. I'll talk about prevention methods and treatment, people who are at the highest risk of HIV, the response within Australia and New South Wales, and then we'll have a quiz at the end to test your knowledge and see how well you've learnt. And there'll be some room for further questions at the end if you have those. I did swap the order of these, so I do have prevention and treatment after people at highest risk of HIV. All right, but first I want to gauge your knowledge. So if you can all jump onto menti.com and use the code that is on the top of the screen there, 8319140, and I'll just quickly pop that in the chat so that you can go. There is a little question there, and it's to ask how familiar you are with HIV. And it's just really to get a snapshot of the knowledge within the room, because I'm always curious to see, you know, what everyone knows about HIV. And there's the code there. So I'll let you all pop that in. How many we got? We got 32 people. Cool, bit of a mix, yeah. Some know lots and are just joining on for fun. Some are pretty familiar, just here for a refresh. Some have some basic knowledge and want to know more. And some people know nothing. They're Jon Snow. That's for any of you Game of Thrones fans out there. Cool, we've had 17 people. Yeah. Looks like there's a good amount of knowledge. Any last ones coming through? Yeah, cool. All right, thanks so much. I'll continue on. Feel free to continue that even if you can't see a result pop up, because we will capture this later on. Thanks so much. All right, so we'll start off with what is HIV. So if you could just pop in the chat what you think HIV is. Yeah, some answers coming through. Virus. Yep. Cool. Yeah, I think some of you are pretty spot on there. So HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, and it is a virus which weakens the immune system. All right, what is AIDS? Does anyone want to pop in the chat what they think AIDS is? What does AIDS stand for? It's a bit of more of a tricky one to write. There we go, Damien. Pretty close there. Yep. Cool. So AIDS is acquired immune deficiency syndrome, and it is when a person has a collection of different symptoms and illnesses caused by HIV attacking the immune system. All right, can someone contract or catch AIDS? Someone want to have a go of answering that question in the chat? No. Yeah, lots of no's coming in. Fabulous. Correct, yeah. A person cannot contract or catch AIDS. They can only contract HIV, the virus that can lead to AIDS. Well done. All right, how long can it take for HIV to progress to AIDS? Does anyone want to have a go at that one? Might be a bit of a tricky question. So how long can it take for HIV to progress to AIDS? $10 years, yeah. Depending on treatment or other factors, it could be a very long time or a short one. Yep, good answer. So it can take up to 5 to 10 years for HIV to weaken the immune system enough for someone to be considered to have AIDS. Does AIDS still happen in Australia? Does anyone know that answer? Yes, no, yes, yes, yes. Okay, lots of yeses. Cool. So in Australia, a person living with HIV is unlikely to develop AIDS. It can still happen and it does still happen. However, our medical system is pretty efficient at early detection. So of course, there's a lot of factors that come into place. So people's access to inclusive, affirming healthcare people in remote areas, our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in remote areas. There's a lot of factors there, but it's very uncommon in Australia now. And if it does happen, we have treatments available, and I'll be touching on that later on. So is there a cure for HIV? Does anyone know? No, lots of no's. Okay, yeah, looks like you know that one. So there is no cure or vaccine for HIV, but we do have the highly effective treatment and prevention options, and I'll go into all of those. Well done. Can anyone name the 6 body fluids that can transmit HIV? Let's see if anyone can do all 6, or maybe as a group, you'll get all 6. Does anyone want to have a go? I'll give you a bit of time to type them up. Yeah, blood is one. Is semen? Yep. Saliva is not one. Blood, semen, yeah. Breast milk, well done, Bree. Yes, that is often the one that people don't get. All right, I'll show you the rest. So we have blood, semen, cum, pre-cum, vaginal or front hole fluids, rectal fluids, and breast milk, which is uncommon in Australia. So people who are having a baby are tested for HIV. So simply coming into contact with these fluids that have HIV in them is not enough to actually contract HIV. And to get HIV, the fluids need to enter the bloodstream. So we talk about the 4 E's. So for HIV to be transmitted from one person to another, an exact combination of things need to be present. And this is an easy way to remember it as the 4 E's. So it firstly needs to exist. So the risk of HIV infection must exist in the first place. So HIV must be present in the body of one person without undetectable viral load, and I'll talk about what that means later, and not present in the body of another person who isn't on PrEP, and I'll also talk about that later. And then it needs to exit. So HIV must have an exit point. So the 6 fluids that HIV is present in, and we mentioned those before. So it needs to exit the body in one of those fluids. And then there needs to be enough HIV in the bodily fluid to cause an infection. So there must be a sufficient viral load in that amount of fluid. And then, of course, lastly, it needs to enter. So fluid must be able to enter the bloodstream of the other person who does not have HIV. So in order of all of those things to happen, that's how HIV can be transmitted. And now we'll talk about, how they will be stopped in the treatment and prevention section later on. So who is at most risk of HIV? Well, in reality, anyone could be living with HIV. So it's always best not to assume, and especially if you're working with people in, a client setting. Does anyone want to have a quick stab at how many, how many gay, bi, men who have sex with men make up the yearly percentage of HIV notifications? Does anyone roughly know? Yeah, majority, yeah. So it's 70%, roughly 70% each year. So gay, bi, queer, and other men who have sex with men represent close to 70% of all new HIV diagnoses in Australia. So the most common way that gay, bi, queer and other men who have sex with men get HIV is by having anal sex without a condom. Most transmission today in Australia occurs where one partner has HIV but does not know it, so they don't know their status. And that's why testing is essential to prevent this from happening. And other common ways are vaginal sex between women and men. That was 24% of notifications in 2020. And sharing needles for injecting drug use was 13% in 2020. So they're the next two most common ways of HIV transmission in Australia. So unsterile needles used for tattoos, piercings, they can also transmit HIV, although this is very uncommon in Australia, and there is more risk with like backyard jobs and holidays at certain destinations where they may not have the sterilisation requirements that Australian tattoo and piercing parlours have. And as mentioned before, a person can also pass HIV to their baby during childbirth or through breastfeeding, but not if they're on treatment and have an undetectable viral load. And as I already mentioned, this is not common in Australia, and that's due to our high testing rates for people having a baby and our treatment options available. So how does someone know if they are HIV positive? Well, anyone who contracts HIV will seroconvert from being HIV negative to HIV positive. And some people don't get any symptoms. However, some might experience flu-like illness, a fever, a sore throat. They might have some rashes on their body and swollen glands as well. And HIV can take up to 3 months before it can be detected by tests. And this is called the window period. So the only way to know for sure whether someone has contracted HIV is regular testing, which we promote a lot. All right, we'll jump into prevention and treatment methods now. Does anyone want to have a guess on what these little blue pills are called? What's the common name that we call these? Yeah, well done, Tegan. You're first in. PrEP. Congratulations. So this is PrEP. So PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and it is a course of antiretroviral medication, and it's taken before potential exposure to HIV. And there are different dosage methods. So people can take these every day. It's 1 pill a day. They can take it on demand, which means they plan when they are going to have sex. So they'll take 2 tablets at least 2 hours before they have sex. And then they take another tablet 24 hours after that first 2. Then they take another tablet 24 hours after that second tablet. And then they keep taking 1 tablet until they haven't had sex, unprotected sex, for 48 hours. So that's on demand. And then periodic might be when someone is going on holiday. So they might start taking their tablets before they go on holiday. And then while they're on holiday, they continue taking their tablets every day. And then after they're back from holiday, they stop taking their tablets a few days after they've returned from their holiday. So that's the dosage methods, and there are different requirements for certain populations. So daily, anyone can have daily course. On demand, though, is very specific. So if you are working with people, it's best to get them linked in with sexual health or their doctor to get further information about what dosage method is required for them. And to get on PrEP, there are some tests that need to be conducted. So they need to have a HIV test and also a kidney function test. And after those results come in, then the physician or the nurse will be able to prescribe PrEP if those results were clear. And then we have PEP. So that is post-exposure prophylaxis. It's also an antiretroviral medication, and it must be taken within 72 hours after a potential exposure. And the course goes for 4 weeks. and it's found in emergency departments and some sexual health clinics, but mainly those larger ones in the cities. But in emergency departments, you can find PEP. So the reason why it needs to be taken within the 72 hours after the potential exposure is data has shown after that time the medication is ineffective. It's not a guarantee that PEP will work for the person and prevent the HIV from taking a hold, but it is quite effective, and it's only to be used as a emergency use. It's not promoted as a regular form of prevention. It's an emergency just in case option. Treatment as prevention, or TASP, and that's effective HIV treatment, means most people can achieve an undetectable viral load within 6 months. So treatments available for people living with HIV vary. Some people only need to take 1 or 2 tablets a day. Some people might have a different combination of different drugs. It is all very individual, and they work with their prescribers about what treatments are best for them, because some treatments will have different side effects for different bodies, different people. So there isn't just one treatment for everybody. There's a range of treatments out there, and some take a combination and some just take one type. But basically, when they're on undetectable viral load, that means that they can't transmit HIV to anybody. So U equals U might be something that you've seen, and that's undetectable equals untransmittable. So the virus is still present in the person, but they can't transmit it to anybody. And this has been a real game changer for HIV prevention, not only here in Australia, but in other places around the world. And it has given a lot of freedom and, reduced anxiety for people living with HIV who were concerned about transmitting it to other people. They know that they can't transmit it to anybody if they are undetectable viral load. And it really is incredible that we have this now. It has reduced stigma within the communities, but there is still a lot of work to do on HIV stigma, but this has certainly helped quite a lot. And lastly, we can't forget the good old condoms. So external and internal condoms still have a very strong place in HIV prevention. So they're a physical barrier, and they can also prevent other sexually transmitted infections. So we can't forget the good old condom. They're still very useful, very easily accessible. We provide them for free. Jen and the team at Caddyshack talk about the Play Safe, and they can send out condoms as well. So yeah, must not forget the age-old tried and true condoms. So let's look at how the 4 E's are eliminated after we add in the treatment and prevention options. So when it comes to exist, we know if someone has an undetectable viral load, it still exists within their body, but the levels of HIV are so low that it won't transmit into the other person. And if someone who is HIV negative and they are on PrEP, then the medication will prevent them getting HIV. So those two kind of stop that exist from happening. Exit, this is where condoms come in. So if condoms are used, semen and pre-cum can't leave the body. It would also protect from vaginal front hole fluids. Condoms fit quite perfectly there. There must be enough HIV in the body fluid. So that's where the undetectable viral load comes in again. So if there's not enough virus within the body fluid, then it won't be transmitted. And entry. So condoms are here again. So if the fluid doesn't enter the body, then no risk of HIV transmission either. So I hope that gives you a good idea of how treatment and prevention really stops the transmission of HIV.
Thanks,
All right, we'll
Joseph.
dive in. Yeah.
Can I just jump in there, because we've had a couple of questions come through in that little section which are really relevant. The first one is the discussion around PrEP and PEP. Are those medications available free of charge?
So they are for some people, depending on their situation. So PrEP is on the pharmaceutical benefits scheme, and it costs just over $40 for people who don't have a concession card. I think if you have a concession card, it's I think it's $8. So PrEP is not free, but if you are in a situation where it really is not, you are not able to pay for it, there are programs available for you to get free access to PrEP. So PrEP Access Now is one. I'll just put that in the chat. Is a good website, PrEP Access Now. They have programs available, and other places around the country have programs available for people who are wanting to access PrEP for free. PrEP is at the emergency department. So yeah, you just go in and it's treated in any public medicine would be. Yeah.
Excellent. And then the second question relates to undetectable viral load. And so has that taken away the responsibility for HIV positive person to disclose their status to a sexual partner if they know that they have undetectable viral load?
Yeah. So people living with HIV do not have to disclose their status at all, as long as they are taking precautions to prevent HIV being transmitted. So if they're on undetectable viral load, they don't have to tell anybody. It's no one's business.
Excellent. Thank you for answering those questions for us. I'll let you continue. Thanks.
Yeah. We've got a bit to pump through, and then I really want to get to the quiz and see how much information everyone has taken in. So we'll talk about some numbers within Australia and New South Wales. So HIV notifications have declined by 37% in Australia since 2016, which is really, really good news. However, COVID-19 disruptions, including less HIV testing, have contributed to the dramatic drop in HIV notifications in 2020. And testing rates really need to get back up to the pre-pandemic levels, which they currently aren't at right now. So organisations like ours are really encouraging people to get back out there and get their regular testing done. So in 2020, 29,090 people were estimated to be living with HIV across Australia. And in Australia, it is estimated 2,610 people were unaware that they were HIV positive in 2020. So they're the people that organisations like ACON are really trying to get in touch with to get tested, because as soon as someone knows their HIV status, then they can take the steps required to, get on treatment and then be undetectable viral load and not transmit HIV to anyone else. People who are unaware that they are positive, they're the bulk of the notifications that are coming from. So we really need people to get tested. 42,076 people had taken PrEP by the end of 2020 in Australia. So it's quite a huge amount of people. And the EPIC study, which was done in New South Wales, was pretty much like the Kickstarter of PrEP in Australia. And it was quite successful, and PrEP continues to be one of the biggest tools in our HIV prevention toolkit. In 2021, 178 New South Wales residents were newly diagnosed with HIV, and this is 36% less than the 2016 to 2020 average of 279. Once again, COVID may have attributed to those lower numbers. And of these 178 people, 135, which is 76%, were men who have sex with men. 35 or 20% were heterosexual people, and 2% were likely acquired HIV via injecting drugs, and 4 via another exposure. It wasn't determined what that other exposure was. This is 38% fewer men who have sex with men and 33% fewer heterosexual people compared with the new diagnosis average for 2016 and 2020. So while the numbers are showing good news, we still need to really have that knowledge that COVID has impacted testing rates, the amount of people having sex, and the there's a bit of fatigue out there, a bit of testing fatigue. We've all we all got very over getting swabbed in the nose and the throat from COVID, and where we are noticing there is some testing fatigue out there within some communities. So we just really got to hammer home those messages that it's still really important to get HIV and STI tests done. So this is some information into Australia's HIV response. So Australia is uniquely placed to end HIV transmission by 2025. However, the work needs to continue. So HIV treatment must be available for all who need it, regardless of Medicare eligibility. Making PrEP available to all those who need it, regardless of their residency or visa status. And we'll progress efforts to end HIV transmission in Australia. And modelling has shown investment in HIV can avert over 6,000 new infections and save $1.4 billion by 2030. So I think governments would like to hear that. Every $1 spent on needle and syringe programs saves the community $27 in healthcare costs. So for those of you who don't know what a needles and syringe program is, it's a program where a person can come in and get clean equipment for injecting drug use. And they can also get some information and resources on, making sure that they are using their drugs in a safe way. And they can also collect needle bins to dispose of their needles safely so that no one can get a needle injury from those needles. So ongoing investment in community-led HIV organisations such as ours, nationally coordinated health promotion with local implementation, involving priority populations in the response, community-led HIV prevention programs, peer-based rapid HIV testing, needle and syringe programs, regular HIV testing, treatment as prevention, PrEP, PEP and condom use. All of that needs to continue and really still be invested in to ensure that ending HIV happens here in Australia. We are very lucky compared to other places around the world. And, we have still heaps of work to do here. But as soon as we've done something, we need to be able to make sure that other places get that same equity, because HIV hasn't ended for everyone unless it's ended everywhere. So, that's why World AIDS Day is an important day to keep that awareness up. So there's some of our messages that we have done over the years. So test often, treat early and stay safe equals ending HIV. The You Choose was about condoms, PrEP and undetectable viral loads. So people choosing their choice of prevention methods. And then Take Me was all about our different PrEP dosing methods.